Information in this podcast is of general nature only. It does not take into account your personal needs or objectives. Before investing in any product, you need to consider your personal situation, needs and objectives. Always seek professional advice for your particular circumstances and needs prior to investing. Hey Lauren.
Hi Dave, how are you?
Good, how are you? Welcome back.
Thank you, good to be back.
Yeah, now, we've just been chatting about how today's going to go, and I think we really wanted to talk today in this first recording about the sales process of specialist disability accommodation properties, SDA properties.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of options out there. There's a few people doing it. I don't know about you, but my inbox goes bing 4 or 5 times a day with some other
Facebook listens to all my conversations, so I constantly feel like an investor on Facebook.
Yep, that's the one. And I think last time we did one of these, we very, very, very quickly just touched on, when you're buying a property like this, they can be $1 million or more, or $800,000. They're compared to a house in the burbs, where you might spend $500,000 or $600,000 on an investment property, you get $400 to $600 a week rent. It's just a different level of investor and a different level of products, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's a huge jump. So in a snap-sized conversation, I feel like we really want to try and unpack this for anyone listening that's thinking about buying an SDA, because it is such an important part of our conversations, often happening too late. And it can be really frustrating for people that thought they did everything that they should have done before purchasing, but if they had had this information before, they would have made a different purchase. I'd love to go through like a really simple checklist that we often use as the first part of what we would suggest people do before buying. And we can chat through that if you like.
Yeah, I love to. That sounds good, because you're at the coalface, right?
Yeah.
So you're in an office where all day, every day, you get phone calls from people looking to, take the next step on their SDA journey. And we'll talk about that in the next episode a bit more, but they often come to you in what you could almost call a bit of crisis.
Yeah, often it is. Very emotional, very heightened, very stressed. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, education would have been the key part of their, thought process that they've missed, So if they skip that part, often they make a decision that they shouldn't have and end up in crisis mode. And it can be really upsetting, because we know most people are getting into SDA purchases for a good reason. They're doing it to, do a really great thing for the community, have an investment that usually is a financial benefit for them, because otherwise, it's not an investment. And that's got to be a key to making this a successful industry. But yeah, unfortunately, without key information before they make that purchase, a lot of people going the wrong way. So the phone calls we get on a daily basis, we are so glad to be able to receive them and try and help, fix some of those issues or address them and really help get tenants in their property, which is the key to making it successful, even if they have purchased something that doesn't quite meet what their expectations were.
Let's talk about that. So I'm keen to sort of unpack where these guys come unstuck. Now, normally, SDA investors, it's not their first rodeo most of the time, right? They've had experience either in property or shares or it's not their first investment. Is that true or not true?
Look, you get a bit of a mix, but quite often these are people that have invested in real estate of some sort before, or are business people, or sometimes you get the odd investor that's doing it through their super, so it could be their first one, or mum and dad, their first investment. So a bit of a mix.
Okay.
But I would say probably slightly more experienced investors.
All right, and so let's go through the checklist, right? So there I am scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, and I've been having a conversation with my wife in the background about maybe we should invest in property, and Big Brother's listening, and up pops hey, have you thought about an SDA property, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
you click the inquire now button and you go through to someone's very flash looking landing page.
Yeah.
Some of the marketing out there is really schmick.
Yeah.
Far better quality from what we're producing right now on this little podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so so what are the types of questions that the investor should be asking themselves and navigating through some of the information out there?
So if you're in that position and you're looking to make a decision, I would be making sure you were well educated before you're pushed through a sales process. And look, the people out there selling the properties are doing the best they can, but they haven't got that end-to-end experience where they're dealing with tenants, they're dealing with the NDIS, they're making claims, and they're dealing with all the post-purchase business. So as much as they will tell you, you really need to then go into the industry and do your own due diligence. You know, if you're purchasing something that's up around $1 million, sometimes $1 million plus, sometimes just under, you know, it is your responsibility to do proper due diligence. You know, ring some SDA providers, you know, Disability Housing Solutions, who we work with very closely, have these phone calls often, but usually it's after a purchase. And we'd really like to see a transition to people having those conversations before purchase. And a lot of the things that we'll advise people on is, look, your location is a huge factor to your purchase's success. Because if you're going to buy a property in an area that is flooded with other SDA purchases, or B, inaccessible to people with disability, or in a region where you know, supports are really quite hard to get. It's not a growing SDA market, so you would expect that to be quite a different investment scenario than something that perhaps was in a good location, did have a decent population, and didn't have some of those hurdles of the regional places that have got cheap land, but don't support the SDA market, you know, at the tenant end. So I would be saying location is key, and location is not just, you know, which city am I aiming for? Yeah. There's lots of facets to the location conversation. I would say that majority of our tenants really do want and need to be close to convenience facilities, such as, you know, a reasonably large shopping centre. I'm not talking about a Ampol with a Foodery on it, or a Macca's on the corner. I'm talking a Woolworths and a pharmacy and a medical centre, sort of a shopping centre where they can get to that within a kilometre. The closer the better, and make sure that the footpaths and the road crossings are accessible, because if they have to go a kilometre in the other direction to get a kilometre back to the shops, then that is a hurdle. And we've certainly seen many people turn down a tenancy because of these kinds of things. Okay. So yeah, when you're looking for land, these things are really important. And on top of that location factor, you've really got to look at the region you're purchasing in. You know, Dave, you have a lot of experience in looking at, you know, council approvals, like what's being developed in this area, how many SDAs are being built at the moment. And unfortunately, we do tend to uncover pockets of SDA investment that have just absolutely oversupplied. And there's just no tenants in them. You know, there's one provider was advertising the other day, they've got 30 vacancies in Townsville. And I feel for all of those investors.
Is that across all of Townsville or one little corner of Townsville?
Oh, I would assume it's probably in a suburb, just one. Yeah.
So look, let's pause, because you've just given us a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just taking some notes, right? And you've got things like the end-to-end experience of SDA providers, location, accessibility, convenience, support services, footpaths, crossings over. So,
sorry, that was only one item. We've got so much more.
But this is the whole point of this episode, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
There's so much to get, and if I'm a builder who's taken on to build some SDA properties as a part of what we do to provide that service to people, which is great, no problem. Fantastic. We need them. We love them. They're doing the best they can, as are all of us, right?
Yeah.
But there's typically, I'm going to say like 95% of the time, a builder doesn't have the end-to-end experience that you mentioned. So within And you mentioned disability housing solutions. We're very closely aligned with disability housing solutions, right? So,
Yeah.
and DHS is that we're an SDA provider, and you can Google SDA provider if you're in the western suburbs of Sydney or Darwin. Google SDA provider Blacktown or Darwin, or find one near you. It doesn't use us, don't use us, but
Doesn't matter.
DHS is an SDA
Cool.
provider, right?
Yep.
And I know that within the DHS team, there's the experience of people who have done land developments, construction, marketing,
Mm.
disability services, work with the NDIA, the NDIS, different government departments, politicians, local government. That's end-to-end experience that you
Yes.
referenced, right? And so
Yeah.
within the team meetings, there's all of that's in the room.
It
Now,
is.
not everyone has that,
Yeah.
but by all means, you can use whoever you need to use. So that's really important because
Mm.
that end-to-end experience, it informs then. If you mentioned that, if someone's clicked on the button on their phone to go through and look at this pretty picture, and they've got a phone call back the next day from someone saying, "Hey, we've got a great opportunity for you. Get all the information you can, ask all the questions you can, get all the
Yep.
brokers sent, get the links sent, and then understand it all, and then make a
Mm.
phone call to an SDA provider and say,
Yeah.
"Hey,
It's key.
someone's saying I should buy a property in this outer suburb of this regional city, and they're promising to get 3 people in there. How does that sound to you?" Right? And then
Yeah.
take on board the
The
response,
feedback.
because
Yeah.
that SDA provider is going to be the person ultimately who's responsible to find tenants for the
That's
property.
right. That's right. So you would assume that if you're going to be purchasing an investment property anywhere, understanding the rental demand in that area that you're considering is a key part of a decision on your purchase. And so if somebody called me and said, "Oh, I'm looking to buy in this certain suburb in Townsville that's I've got a great package for. What are your thoughts on the tenant demand in that area?" I have absolutely no reason to tell you exactly what the picture is. I'm not trying to make a sale to you, because at the end of the day, you haven't purchased anything yet. So I'm going to be really honest and really transparent about what I think that investment is going to return you, and what I think you need to consider before you purchase. And that would be, hey, look, Townsville's a great area. There is definitely SDA demand there. However, there is also a lot of SDA product on the market, and currently the vacancy rate is very high, because there's been a lot of investment in there. Perhaps you could look at a different area. These are the points that I would consider, and these are the kinds of experiences we've had in these areas or those areas or whatever.
Yeah.
So we'd unpack that for them, and just, try and give them some guidance on, what the tenancy demand is, because I think that the property sellers, like you said, they're all doing their best, but they don't have that experience of the tenancy demand and
That's what I was going to
process.
mention. So a lot of the guys selling the property, they're doing the best they can with the resources they've got, but it's
Yeah.
the gap in their end-to-end experience. So they'll
Mm.
go to SDA Finder, which is an NDIS supported website that has all the vacancies in certain areas or demand in certain areas. So they're
Yeah.
using government resources to establish what's the demand. Okay, well,
Yeah.
the demand here looks like there's quite a few people looking for HPS and FA and robust. Okay, well, let's go and put 15 houses over there, right? That data is always 6 to 12 months old, and
Yep.
they're not plugging into the sills in that
Mm.
area,
Mm.
and so there's no local knowledge.
No, and there's so much more to that data than it presents. Like, you can look at one spreadsheet and make some assumptions, but unless you see spreadsheet 4, 5, and 6 and actually correlate the data, you're really just reading one little insight to it. So unless you understand the market in depth, that data on its own is not enough.
Which is where
So
people come unstuck, right? So
yeah,
they'll buy the house without doing what we're suggesting here,
yeah,
based on incomplete or misinterpreted data that's out of
it's
date,
often misinterpreted. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then they've paid their money, the construction has come through, and they've got all of their paperwork, and they go, "Hey," and they knock on the door of DHS and say, "I've got this property. and then we go through a process which we'll discuss in the next episode to enroll it, and we come back and go, oh, well, you know what? There's already 15 of the same house that you've got vacant in front of you. So
Yeah.
what a problem, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
problem can
Needs
be
to be
avoided.
expectation. Yeah.
So we can
Yeah.
avoid that by making the phone call before any monies are paid, before any contracts are
Yeah.
signed.
That's right. And like I had a lovely conversation with an investor the other day who's doing exactly that. They're calling around before they buy. They're running floor plans and land purchases past us for extra advice. And it really is a smart way to do things. So
Well, it's a big decision.
it's
It's
a huge
a million.
decision.
$1 million didn't get what it used to, but it's $1 million.
Yeah.
And I think I
Yeah.
mentioned last time, like I'm in business, and I've bought and sold many businesses, and I run businesses now. And if I'm looking to purchase a business, whether it's $500,000 or $5 million, I spend months
Yeah.
understanding the area, understanding the profit and loss statements, understanding the demand, understanding
Yeah.
what's driving that business. What are the future prospects like? What are the legislative risks? What happens if someone
Yeah.
at the stroke of a pen changes the rule? I want to know everything about it before I put
Yeah.
money into it.
That's
So,
right.
and I think if you're not having that kind of mindset, that business mindset about $1 million purchase, you're really asking to get taken advantage of, which is what everyone wants to avoid.
And that unfortunately is what we're seeing a lot of. So look at and moving on from that education piece. So I guess that's the first nutshell is get some feedback on the location first. And there's a few facets to that location feature. The other part that I wanted to unpack, which is probably the second biggest mistake that people make, is looking at the SDA price guide and having fun with the SDA calculator online, which is a great resource for calculating payments that you'll receive as a landlord with tenants in your property. But again, this is where property marketers are looking at that data and misinterpreting what the actuals will be. And so they're giving investors false hope that, a property where they're putting, 5 bedrooms and 3 robust tenants in there will return them close to 200,000. Well, then they get on the phone to us and we're like, we're really sorry. That's just your expectations are really incorrect. And they say, well, look, the SDA price guide says that I can get that. I'm like, yeah, sure, the price guide says that, but that's not what anyone wants or needs. So you're not going to get it. They can try until the cows come home, and that's their prerogative. But we can only show them the results that we are achieving and the demand that we do have. And it does not fit that model. So again, it's taking that data that's available and misinterpreting it, or not having all of the pieces of information to actually make it sing, and to understand it really thoroughly. And to do that, you really have needed qualified advice.
You really do, and there's 3 magic words that the NDIS as a scheme has unlocked. Right, it's freedom of choice.
Yeah.
People have freedom of choice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 3 participant robust, so I'm going to go there real quick, okay?
Sure.
It's
a fun one. It's a fun one.
It's a fun one. There's people out there selling 3 participant robust houses in the suburbs. For Christ's sake. Just if you're about to sign the dotted line on a 3 participant robust house in a suburb somewhere, stop, tear it up, run away, don't walk away. You're never, ever, ever going to get 3 participants who require robust accommodation to live in the same house together.
No, it'd be rare as hen's teeth, and only in very particular circumstances.
And if you've got the house in the burbs, you do not have the diamond in the rough.
No.
This is more group house type thing with high level care in central locations with a lot of supervision. This is not a house in the suburbs. So that's one of several topics we could have a whole episode about.
We could.
But that's an example of the advice you need to be looking for. So I think we'll probably sort of start to wrap this up, Loz, but I think really from everything we're discussing, by all means, look at any opportunity that comes across your desk. Talk about it with your partner or your co-investors, or think about it, talk with your financial planner about it, talk with the person presenting the opportunity with you about it, run through the numbers. And then before you make any kind of commitment, please talk to an SDA provider, one not affiliated with whoever you're purchasing property from.
Yeah, that is just another little hook.
Unaffiliated provider. Whether it's
Independent.
us, someone else, don't care. But please find an SDA provider and run through this product in this location, these returns. Is this possible?
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be the biggest key. So I hope that helps people or encourages people to, you know, take those extra steps and do it the right way. It'll take half an hour out of your time to have a conversation.
It's a couple of hours of effort to spend. If you're going to spend $1 million,
that's right.
A couple of hours and put some effort in.
Yeah, definitely important. So that'll set you on a much better path than without that little piece of information. And from there, it'd only be upwards.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Loz. I'll see you next time.
Anytime. Thanks, Dave. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.